Well, hey everyone, I'm Lisa K. Crawford, broker associate with Amazing Soul Flow Properties, here with Real Estate State of Mind. And initially, this show was scheduled for yesterday on Sunday, the 17th, which was Easter. Big no no. Um, but I had mistakenly scheduled it for yesterday. So, needless to say, I wasn't here yesterday because we were all most likely enjoying time with our families and wasn't a good time to do this show. But today is a good day, and we're here to talk about whether or not America is facing a housing crisis. Some people seem to think so, others think not. People who invest in the stock market tend to think that the market is self adjusting, that it always adjusts itself and balances itself out. And others say no when it comes to housing. What we're seeing currently in this country is that it's getting harder and harder to find housing, especially for low and moderate income persons. And that eventually can lead to a crisis situation if we're not careful in this country. I was reading an article recently. It's from the State of Black America 2022 report, which is put out by the National Urban League. And I'm going to try to turn to that report so I can bring out some of the information that pertains to statistics, which really should concern us all when it comes to housing in this country. And we'll talk more about why we should all be concerned about quality and suitable housing for all Americans. Um, so let me see if I can go ahead and share this with you now. Hold on for just a second. Okay, so I have the article up, and again, this is from the State of Black America report, which is produced annually by the Urban League. And what it's talking about here is an article from Congresswoman Maxine Waters, and the name of her article is Our Nation's Housing Crisis is a Threat to Our Democracy." So, needless to say, she's going to tie some of the stats that I'm going to mention here to some politics, and I'm going to minimize the politics part. But what I want you to pay attention to are the statistics as we go through this article. She starts off talking about the need for some type of monitoring with regard to racism and housing. She mentions that during the time around the civil rights movement in 1965 in this country, that Dr. King joined others in a grassroots civil rights investigations across the country where Black people use white pseudonyms to inquire about homes for sale and rent throughout Chicago's segregated neighborhoods. Of course, this took place throughout all the country. The practice of using alternate identities to seek housing, an ongoing civil rights enforcement tool known as fair housing tests, worked to expose the racial discrimination perpetuated by government housing policies and systematically were systematically inflicted on Black Americans, immigrants, and other people of color. So that's the big issue, and that's what, of course, April is about. April is National Fair Housing Month, which is designed to shine a spotlight on the need to make housing fair for all people, regardless of nationality, skin color, race, religion, creed, all of those things that we can't help. So that's what this month is for. In her article, she also talks about More than 52 years ago now, Dr. King recognized the important role fair housing played in achieving things like racial equality, unlocking economic inclusion, and securing a fair democracy. And with issues like possibly a looming housing crisis in this country, it's going to definitely affect other key issues among people of color. Here is an interesting stat from the article. She says, together, Black, Indigenous, and Latinx, that's Latinx, Latinx people represent 29% of the total US population together, but 67% of people experiencing homelessness. Let that sink in for a minute. As you can see, Black, Indigenous, and Latinx people make up less of the population than they do the homelessness in America. So that's very disturbing. She also goes on to indicate, as it stands, Black and Latinx renters are disproportionately struggling to afford rent and face evictions at 2 times the rate of white renters. And what's more, the Black-white home ownership gap sits at a 120-year high in this country, which obviously means nobody in politics has really been working on the issue. And she goes on to say that the modern day redlining still persists, with Black neighborhoods experiencing systematic appraisal bias and devaluation. And sadly to say, I know for a fact that that is true because I have actually dealt with sellers who had appraisals done and they felt that they were systematically targeted with low appraisal numbers in their neighborhoods, which were mostly Black and brown neighborhoods. So these issues do persist. They are problems which we do need to deal with. And I think we're all obligated to pay attention to these kind of issues across the country because they can present some humanitarian type issues if they get too far out of hand. All right, so a little bit more from the article. Congresswoman Waters basically is tying this article to the Democrats' Buildback Better Act, which Democrats in the House of Representatives passed in November 2021. According to Congressman Waters, she feels that the Buildback Better Act remains the best federal solution that we have as Americans to provide fair and affordable housing in this country. She says the bill includes more than $150 billion for investments in fair and affordable housing. It provides holistic solutions that will give every community the opportunity to fully participate in the nation's democracy through housing stability. So that is a very important component, obtaining housing stability in this country for all people. She goes on to say that today, many African American neighborhoods are actually more segregated than a generation ago, and that your zip code can dictate your access to a myriad of opportunities, including education, healthcare, employment as well. And I also know this to be true as well. So I think it's a very important article. I think we are on the brink of some type of housing crisis, and I think our government is going to have to get involved. I don't know that the private sector can do all of this by itself. Congressman Waters says the Build Back Better Act would help end homelessness, reduce the cost of rent, increase access to homeownership, and help close the racial wealth gap. Specifically, the more than $150 billion investment would increase the number of affordable homes by more than 1.8 million. Did you hear that? It would lower rents for over 700,000 renters and expand the dream of home ownership for more than 600,000 American households. And finally, the bill would give many families the opportunity to improve their savings, build wealth, secure good paying jobs, open businesses, send their children to college, and retire with dignity. And those are the type of things that home ownership can afford you. So let me stop sharing this for a moment. I have had clients who have been approved for $450,000, $500,000 to purchase a home here in South Florida. And these folks that I'm talking about in particular have been in the market for close to a year trying to find their ideal home. And for $500,000, they're having a very difficult time, because what you used to be able to purchase for 500,000 is not the same because prices have increased. So purchasing something for 500,000 may look more like a $350,000 investment, not quite 500,000. And 500,000 is probably going to look like more today, like 750,000. So with prices increasing and not necessarily the quality of the purchases increasing, people are just paying more for what is already existing out there on the market. And for some, it works, and for some, it's not a good fit. So I have had clients finding themselves waiting, just waiting, standing by, waiting on things to get better. And that's the real concern. Are things going to get better in this market? There's another article I want to talk about briefly while we begin to discuss whether or not things are going to actually get better in the market for Americans. So we'll talk about this shortage of homes in the country. Here I have an article from NPR, and it says there's never been such a severe shortage of homes in the U.S. Can you believe that? This is a March 2022 article. There's never been such a severe shortage of homes in the U.S. So something is going on. The question is to try to find out what's going on, why, and how we can deal with it. So in this article, it talks about, by one estimate, the U.S. is more than 3 million homes short of the demand for would-be home buyers. Pandemic-related supply chain problems aren't helping. They're adding tens of thousands of dollars in cost to the typical house cost. But the roots of the problem would go back much farther. In this article, it's saying that it's going back to the housing bubble collapse of 2008. That's where a lot of this is stemming from. Let's see, let me get to the gist of why that is here. So the article says the main reason we've ended up with millions of homes short is that builders for many years just weren't building enough to keep up with demand. The lack of supply has pushed home prices to record levels, up more than 20% alone. So I'm not sure why builders weren't building for a period of time, but that seems to be the gist of why this article thinks that we're looking at a crisis right now. There weren't enough homes built in years past, and now the demand is just, it's through the roof. So that's what we're dealing with. The article goes on to talk about how the pandemic hit. It says gradually, though many home building companies did recover uh, before COVID hit, there are some companies that haven't recovered. They didn't recover or begin to recover until after the pandemic. The pandemic shut down things. Many workers left, and with unemployment low, there are many people who can't find. There are many employers who can't find people to work for them. So those are some of the issues that we're also facing as well. Let's see if there's anything else in this article I want to point out to you. All right, so that's basically it. And the next thing I want to talk about is this issue that has to do with the supply of homes on the market. Right now, across the country, there is a very short supply of housing stock throughout the country, which means that if people don't have a lot of choices to choose from for the homes that are out there being sold, the prices of those homes just keep inching up, 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 up. And again, it doesn't mean that the quality of the home is in any type of pristine condition. It's just that the prices just keep going up. So that's part of what we're facing. Now, I'm here in South Florida, so I want to talk a little bit about what the housing stock looks like here in South Florida. So let me get to that really quickly. There's an article that'll help me explain that a little better to you. All right. So this article has to do with what's new. Is this the right article? Hold on. No, it's not. Give me 1 second, guys. Get back to the right article. Well, I can tell you while I'm looking for it, I can basically tell you that Broward County and South Florida in general has a very low housing stock, a very low housing stock. So here we go. This article's coming up now. You can see from this article that the median single family home sale price in Broward County, Florida was $519,000 in February. That's the median sales price. And that's up almost 20% from $433,000 in just the year before. So in terms of the inventory, the supply of housing that's on the market, in February, there was the months of supply was 1.7 in February 2021 to 1.1 last month. Well, what does that really mean? If you have a housing stock of 1.1 on the market, what you're really saying is that in 1.1 months, if all the houses on the market sell and nothing else comes on the market, there will be nothing else out there to sell. That's basically what that means. So as you can see, there is a very low supply of housing on the market, and a low supply of housing tends to push the prices of the homes that are out there up. So that's also part of what a lot of people are experiencing out there. It's just the way it is. So if we're in a crisis, some people, I've been listening to some of the pundits out there talk about it, and some of them say that, we really won't know where things really stand or where they shake out until around the end of the year. And then some people feel that they can get a better idea of where the market is headed. Right now, we see that interest rates are rising. Interest rates are hovering around 5% currently. and it has already had an effect on the number of people purchasing homes. So there's been a decline in mortgage lending application rates. Those rates have decreased. The number of mortgage loan originations have also decreased, and that is consistent with the increase in interest rates. So it needs to be a nice balance, obviously, for all of these things to work well. But I think we have to do a lot more. And as citizens of the country, think about ways that we can collectively come together to deal with these issues of housing across the country, so that, there will be affordable housing. And that should be built into the equation for Americans. That's what I really believe. So I'm hoping that Congress will do more. I'm okay with the Build Back Better plan. I feel like if we can invest overseas and send all manners of money and resources to causes that do not necessarily have to do with what's going on American soil, we can certainly take care of some of the issues that directly affect Americans on our own soil here. So I just wanted to talk about that. I don't know if it's a complete crisis, but I do think that we are definitely on the brink of something that could be calamitous if we're not careful. If there's legislation that can help across the country to provide affordable housing, I think it's incumbent of all Americans to build those kind of things into the equation so that we're taking care of Americans on all levels. And it's just something that we should do. I think Americans need to be good spirited and work together, and we need to help each other in that way. All right, it really doesn't take any away from the ones who have a lot going on already. It's just to make America a greater place for all Americans. And I think it's incumbent up on us to do that. So that's kind of my piece on that. I'm Lisa K. Crawford. I am a broker associate with amazing SoFlo properties. I love helping people buy and sell real estate. Real estate it's a great investment. It's a great long-term investment. It builds wealth. And so I say get in where you fit in and get in sooner than later, because this market, as we know, is not waiting on anyone. It is fierce out here. All right, guys, if I could ever be of service, don't hesitate to give me a call. My phone number is 954-864-8950. Lisa K. Crawford, broker associate with Amazing SoFlo Properties. And remember, at Amazing SoFlo, we want your next real estate experience to be absolutely amazing. Have a great day. Bye-bye.